episode of Post-Fades Cheesesteaks, long-awaited running back episode with our Irish lad, Mr. Fluri.
Oi, lad.
You know, it's actually funny because there were a ton of people that saw that video and they were like, "Yo, you got to get that Irish guy on, that Irish lad. He's got to be on the pod." I was like, first of all, you're a fake fan because he was on last year. Second of all, he's not even really Irish like that. Like, so
he's just one of the locals we met over there.
Yeah, one of the locals. One of the locals.
He was there. Yeah, we met him up at the bar. He's a lad.
He's a lad.
The fact that my accent can actually get me that far is pretty impressive. It was just a drunken ass first take, just like Dakota saw me just drunkenly spewing things at the bar. He's like, I got to get some of this on video.
This is the moment. This is what I need. This is the quality I need.
This is the quality we've been looking for.
Unprovoked, unasked. It's just the pure essence of good old nonsense and banter. But hey, good to see that we all made it. We all survived. We all came back in one piece.
I wouldn't say survived, but yeah.
So physically, my body is here, but
my soul is back.
It's doing
my soul is still in Dublin.
The soul is still in Dublin. But anyways, we have running backs. So as always, we start off with the guests, and we'll do our honorable mentions. I have a couple. So
of course you do.
Flurry, who you shut up. Who you got?
So I got 3 honorable mentions. And I hate that I have this guy in my honorable mentions, but Saquon Barkley. Dude, it's a shame. And he's like one of the most exciting prospects, the most exciting prospect of my generation. I've never seen someone so hyped coming out of college as him. He had all the metrics, the size, the speed. His thighs are the size of Montana. I mean, you can't get a better running back prospect.
Slight exaggeration, but yeah.
Only slightly, though. Only slightly.
Maybe like North Dakota size, more accurate, I think. Yeah.
I think that you might be right there, Timo. But even when he was healthy last season, he had 3.7 yards per carry. Yards per carry, I'm going to bring up that stat a lot today, but it's such an indicator. He's on a terrible team, so I give him somewhat of a break. But 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I mean, this isn't the 1960s where that flies anymore. It's a shame, and I hate that I have him in my honorable mentions. But unless he gets it right this year, I mean, as my prediction, I don't think we'll ever see the rookie year Saquon that we saw. Unfortunately, injuries and a terrible front office on a terrible team with a quarterback that's got the coordination of a drunken duck. I mean, you can't get a much worse situation than he's in. So, unfortunately, he's my first honorable mention. Number 2, Damian Harris, bro. 15 TDs last year. I don't expect him to repeat that this year. Me and Timo's talked about this before, but I think Ramondre Stevenson's going to have a pretty big year. He's a crazy, crazy good talent at his size. It's pretty ridiculous. But the 15 touchdowns from Damian Harris last year, I mean, come on. It's pretty ridiculous. He got all the goal line work. Belichick clearly trusts him, despite him fumbling earlier in the season. He didn't go in the doghouse. So Belichick must like him. And there were trade rumors. Again, me and Timo talked about this. So I don't expect a big year, but just because of 15 touchdowns last year, I had to have him in my honorable mentions this year. And
going off that, I got to say, I think the fact that he had 15 touchdowns and had a great fantasy, because once the New England running backs start becoming fantasy relevant, that's when Bill Belichick's like, this is the moment to just degrade you into nothing. I'm surprised he made the team, to be honest with you. I was like, 15 touchdowns. This is classic, cut bait right here.
He gets cut the next year, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. That's I was waiting. But I still think Stevenson takes it over. Whatever reason. Belichick works in mysterious ways. But, yeah, 15 touchdowns, but I still think he made it out of the doghouse at the first couple fumbles, which is a miracle in itself. But once you hear these rumors about Belichick, they're usually true. He usually cuts bait pretty quick.
Yeah, like what was Jonas Gray? Was that the running back for New England? He had like 4 touchdowns, and like the next week he got cut. Was that?
Yeah, there's a name Jonas right Gray? There, man. Yeah. That's it. That shows you the New England Patriots running backs. You pulled out a name that I don't think I could have in a million years brought back up, but just the constant stable. They just keep rolling out like a conveyor belt.
Yeah. So I think that's going to happen to Damian this year, but because of the 15 touchdowns, had to at least mention him.
Get him the recognition. I like it.
Yeah, a little bit. Got to give him something. For my third guy, he's not even a running back. You guys brought him up in the wide receiver episode, but I have to mention him, Deebo Samuel.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, Timo.
Here we go.
What is this? This guy. Oh,
Timo, okay, the adults in the room are talking. Let me get a sentence out before you start with your nonsense.
all right.
you.
Listen, you do you have just tell me, do you have a pinup picture of like Caitlyn Jenner hanging up in your room in a swimsuit or something? Is this because we're just not sure which way we want to go? I definitely
hang on.
Listen, you seem to be a little confused. The long hair go down, you what are you doing there, guy? He's a wide receiver. I hope you were listening to the first episode. I don't know what this running back talk is.
I plead the fifth on the Caitlyn Jenner poster on my wall, first of all. Second of all, dude, watching that guy run the football, he has one of the craziest balances I've ever seen. People will be decking him on the line of scrimmage. He just shoves it off and runs it in for a touchdown. It was unreal. He averaged 6.2 yards per carry, 8 rushing touchdowns to make it 14 total. He had more rushing touchdowns than he did receiving touchdowns, and he had a great receiving year too. Bro, I think he'd be a top 10 running back if that's the position he played. And I know it's weird to mention a wide receiver in an honorable mention for running backs, but he really was a hybrid. He was the WRB1. I mean, that was his position last year. Unbelievable balance and great vision, dude. I don't think you can discount his ability as a runner. And even though it's kind of funny that I bring him up in running backs, I think it's deserved.
Listen, I have nothing against Deebo Samuel. Dakota's over here biting his lips and dying inside because he wanted to disrespect Deebo Samuel. I think he made honorable mention on the wide receiver episode. Somehow he also makes honorable mention of running backs. But the guy, he's clearly a wide receiver. I rated him respectably. He's awesome. He's such a good talent, but he's not a running back. Get out of here. Don't disrespect the other running backs. He's awesome. As a positionless player, he is in top 10. But running back. I think he's more of a dynamic running back because I think people look at him still as the wide receiver and he gets those opportunities. But he's awesome.
I don't know if you can discount his ability to run like that. Every time he lined up in the running back position and I was watching, I was like, dude, this might go for a touchdown. No matter where they were on the field, he was just so dynamic. And like I said, his balance, even step to the left and he's good. Like it was like a ballerina playing football. It was pretty impressive to watch.
Oh no, he was awesome. That's why I gave him all the love. Dakota's over here who didn't know he was. So
yeah, I can hear him cackling in the background over there.
Because you know what? It was so disrespectful that I needed another episode to just criticize him and ridicule him over his poor rankings. Because I spent most of the wide receiver episode doing it. I'm glad you brought it back up in this episode. We can go back and revisit that. But Dakota, please, at this moment where I once the insults start flying, it's usually the beginning of your turn. So go ahead. Who's your honorable mentions? I'll go take a break, grab a beer real fast because I'm sure there's 7 participation trophies coming out right now.
Not 7. We only have 5.
Oh, 5. All right. Good.
Oh, that's it?
Good.
Well,
go ahead, Mr. Top 15.
As I was doing it, it kind of worked out that one of my honorable mentions happened to be the entire division of one of these divisions. So, but I'll start off with who would be number 11. And it was back and forth between the number 10 guy, but the Dakota rule of I need more than 1 year kind of, played a little bit of a factor. So we have Najee Harris. Honorable mention.
Oh, there we go. I love it.
Here we go.
I love it.
Here we go.
The disrespect. The fucking disrespect.
Fluri goes out of position to bring Deebo up, and then you immediately go and just all right, here you go, Fluri. Let me just put this in you.
Hang on, Tim. I got to hear this argument before I start criticizing. Let me hear it.
There's no argument.
Why is he an honorable mention?
It's just I have 9. I have 10 running backs who are, proven who they are, and Najee Harris had 1 rookie year, very good. But I do think there are still 10 running backs better than him right now. So that's all that is.
Fair enough. So mostly he's a rookie. That's basically what we can come down to.
Sure. And then this wasn't on purpose, but the rest of the 4, which I'll be quick on, happened to be the entire NFC East. So
oh boy.
Saquads, Zeke, which was kind of surprising to me, but I just couldn't fit him in. I think Antonio Gibson's still pretty slept on, and then give it a shout out to Miles Sanders because when he's healthy, he can be really good, but he can't stay healthy. So, but
fair enough. I mean, I like what you did there with the whole division. I don't know if most of them are in the top 15, but sure, yeah, I like the idea.
I'd argue
I think Gibson's
and
a shame.
Sanders in top 15.
I think Gibson belongs there. Zeke, to me, is on his way out.
Somebody pointed out that he's been like, after that whole injury he had, like he just hasn't, because he was a workhorse for a while, right? Like he was getting them their every numbers, and now he's been worn down. And you got Tony Pollard is like just as good right now, so it's like, I don't know.
When you just see them back to back, Tony Pollard and Zeke doesn't have that explosiveness that he once had. He used to like explode through the line. He's just kind of trudging through. Like, not that he's not still capable, but he's no longer, I think,
his line's gone now too. So
yeah.
No, I mean, this list changed up a little bit from my last year's list where I had Elliott high, but I'll go to my honorable mention. So my first honorable mention is a young guy, he's kind of borderline guy for me, but I also don't have much optimism in his outlook because he's like you said with Saquon on a booty team. But I went with David Montgomery. That's my first honorable mention.
He's a good player.
He's a nice little player. He had a solid little year. I don't have much faith in that Bears offense or offense line, so I think his outlook's rough. But he had a nice little year this year, one that surprised me. My other honorable mention is again in the NFC North, a guy I had ranked at number 8 last year, who just fell off because he had some injuries and I think his number 2, kind of like we were saying with Zeke and Pollard, I think his number 2 is going to come and take more carries from him this year. So I went with Aaron Jones, my number 11.
I don't agree with that, but
listen, I live in the, when you don't do well, I punish you. Unlike Dakota, where like it doesn't really matter, I'll just bring you down or raise you if it really, whatever mood I'm on. He had a bad year this year. He missed some time because of injury, and I think AJ Dillon is not going away. I like Dillon a lot. If you're talking about stock, I'm saying Dillon's up, Jones is down.
I had him on my fantasy team. He was fine. I don't know what you're talking about, but
was he fine though? Was he?
Yeah, I started him most.
I think he's always been kind of like, nothing spectacular, kind of just like a really good back, but not quite great. But you're right, he's getting older, and with AJ Dillon, I think AJ Dillon's better than him at this point in their careers. And I think he's going to start to slowly take over the job this year.
Oh, I do too.
Also, I have both on my dynasty team, so
he played 15 games, had 800 yards, 4 touchdowns. Like, that's not that great. He had 1,100 yards last year on 14 games. Like, it's just the numbers weren't there. He didn't really miss that much time. I know he missed a couple games, but he didn't miss that much time to just explain this drop-off. He's still in an Aaron Rodgers offense. There's really no reason to just be an okay back. But, yeah, I think Dillon – I'd be more worried about Dillon taking over Aaron Jones than I would Pollard taking over Zeke. Agreed. I think Dillon's here to stay. But those are – what do we got?
All right. So actually, I would love to rank this guy higher. It's just because I don't know what they're going to do exactly with their 2 backs. It's Javonte Williams for the Broncos. Dude, the kid is a stud. Hang on.
Dakota immediately hates this. He's a rookie. He immediately hates this.
No, I like him, but top 10 already.
I'm sorry. Who didn't have Jonathan Taylor in their top 10 last year? Timo, do you remember?
There we go. It's the first mention.
Right. I don't quite remember. Achilles. Do you remember? It was Dakota.
First of many.
Okay. Well,
first of many mentions about that.
So, look, man, the kid is talented, and I think Melvin Gordon really held him back last year. There's going to be a changing of the guard, new coaches. Not only that, you add Russell Wilson, who I think is very underrated at a quarterback. He's going to add so much dynamic playmaking ability to that offense. It's going to open up the run game even more. Javonte Williams, you can see the raw talent. And like I said, with a new coaching staff, and Melvin Gordon even said himself that the coaches want to make him the guy. To me, that kind of indicated it's not going to be so much 50-50. Even if it's 60-40 split, he's going to be a top 10 running back. So I'm excited about his season, and that's why I have him as my number 10.
Fair enough. I definitely think he's got a good upside. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for him, especially that Russell Wilson. That offense in Denver is going to be nice.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I guess
Dakota, are you
then,
still
right?
licking your wounds?
Yeah.
Are you still licking your wounds over
Shut
your
up.
first
Give him a minute. Give him a minute,
Yeah.
Timo. Jesus.
All right.
Oh, hey, I mean, you had to notice that was going to come up very often, and it's only the beginning. I can promise you that.
I'm going to bring it up at least 5 more times.
Oh, easily. What are we on number 10? I have 10 more mentions about it.
Yeah. My number 10 is a guy who his team hasn't picked up his rookie extension yet, so that's a little question mark. And apparently they were looking to trade him, which apparently the Eagles were at one point in discussion with him. But my number 10 guy, who was my number 9 guy last year, Mr. Josh Jacobs of the LA Raiders. So,
yeah, that's a big. Talk about a guy on the downward spiral there who just didn't follow up.
He's entering his 4th year. You're gonna put a rookie in there before him?
Well, I mean, he's still, what's the 5th year looking like there? The Raiders already said that's a no-go.
There's nobody pays running backs. I mean, his rookie year, over 1,000 yards. Second year, over 1,000 yards. And these are all under 15 games. His last year, 14 games, almost 900 yards, 9 touchdowns.
Yeah, but what's his yards per carry? It's like 4.1. It's nothing impressive. I'm not saying I think he's kind of underrated as a running back. I don't think he's that good, and I don't think he's worthy of an extension.
4 yards per attempt is not that bad. I don't know what you're smoking.
4.1 is like middling of the pack, I think, bro.
Miles Sanders had like the 3rd best yards per carry, and he's not in our list. So what is that like? It's all relative, though.
Well,
it depends on what what's he doing on the team. It's not all just yards per carry.
It's a big factor, I think.
So, do you have anything more for this Josh Jacobs argument, or shall I roll into number 10? Because we pretty much stomped on you immediately.
I just shut that right down.
I mean,
we immediately said so we're not going to let that go.
I mean, I think he deserves top 10. He's got the talent, Bama boy. That's 54 receptions as a running back. That's good numbers. I mean, he's versatile. He can block. And that Raiders offense is going to be nice. So I would not be shocked if he returns to those, over 1,000 yards, over 10 touchdown rookie numbers. But we'll see. I'm looking at like pure talent, because running backs are kind of hard to gauge sometimes because, like you said, there's injuries, there's rotations. But in my opinion, he's still a top 10 running back. So
fair enough. I mean, I think McDaniels is definitely going to help that offense in general. They did move on from Drake, so they better hope he's going to do good.
More carries for him.
I'm going to roll right into my number 10. And I got to be honest, I was a little disappointed because Dakota kind of jumped the gun on me already. But Fluri, you kind of walked yourself into this. So, because you already mentioned many times yards per carry. And this was actually a good buzzword that I was going to bring up for my number 10 guy. And he was teetering on that 10 list. I was really trying to, he was so close that I'll mention, but Mr. 3.9 yards per carry.
Oh, here we go.
Which I think we already ridiculed and roasted poor Dakota because Nate Jacobs had a 4.1. What about a 3.9?
I wonder who you're talking about, Timo.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to simultaneously.
I can't think of anybody.
I'm going to simultaneously piss you both off because he's a rookie and he's a Steeler. So my number 10, I put Najee Harris.
He's not a rookie anymore.
Yeah. Who for his numbers, the 1,200 yards, the 467 receiving yards, a couple, I think it's 10 total touchdowns. Looks all good. You look at his averages, not so much. He played all games, so good for him. But I think he's talented. Like Dakota said with Josh Jacobs, I don't know why he, tied his bandwagon to Josh Jacobs for this argument. But when you talk about talent, I think Najee Harris is a top 10 guy. But his averages aren't good. His offense is even worse. I wouldn't be surprised to see aggression. I think they're going to probably give him 300 touches just because, who else are they going to give the ball to? But I think there's potential there, but I think there is still 3.9 average that glaringly jumps out in front of you.
Well, I noticed this last year. You guys are really good at transitions. So I might as well transition into my number 9, who is Najee Harris.
Look at you.
Wow, I thought he was going to be number 1.
Wow. I thought he was number 1 easily.
He
was my number 1 through 10 for a while, but I was like, I can't just do that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like what you said, Timo. I'm a big yards per carry guy, as I'm gonna hammer in that point throughout this entire podcast. You brought this up last year, Timo, and so did you, Dakota. The offensive line is one of the worst I've ever seen. It is so bad. Even with the additions they had in the offseason this year, I think they're going to be a bottom, maybe like 25 to 32 offensive line. It's unfortunate, but their offensive line is terrible. Going from one of the best in the league just a couple of years ago, they're all gone now. And they have a whole new, basically, system set up without Ben Roethlisberger. That's another person who I think kind of held Nahi back. Ben didn't open up anything in the deep ball last year because he simply couldn't throw it that deep anymore. So it was a bunch of dump offs. They knew Ben wasn't going to do anything. It was kind of just like, okay, well, Nahi's going to get the ball, stop the run, and the Steelers have no offense. So that 3.9 yards per carry, definitely concerning. I'm not a fan of that. But I think he's going to have a better year this year simply because they have George Pickens now to complement Deontay and Chase Claypool. They have Pat Freiermuth that I think is a really good tight end. Again, held back by Ben Roethlisberger. And they have a new QB who's going to be 10 times as mobile as Big Ben, at least in his last couple of years.
Mobile, sure. But he's Mitch Trubisky. I don't know if I'm going to, praise the Steelers off. Well, yeah, but either of them. I mean, I know half for Ben isn't great, but he's still an NFL quarterback. I'm pessimistic about the Steelers offense.
I love Big Ben. Literally, all I watched since I was a little kid was Big Ben. But last year, I don't think he would have started for any other team but the Steelers. And it's only because of the respect they had for him. He's nothing flashy. He reminds me of like a Frank Gore type running back where he's not going to wow you, but he hits the hole. He's a hard worker. You can't get him out of the practice room. I think he's gonna get a ton of volume, which I think is what's gonna carry him into the top 10 this year. He had 1,200 yards last year behind one of the worst offenses and one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen. They couldn't do anything. Yet somehow this guy managed 1,200 yards. I think he had 300 plus carries last year without a fumble. He's got the trust of Mike Tomlin. I think he's going to have a better year this year. Not exactly a breakout year. I think they need more talent. The offensive line needs to gel, or they need to add more pieces for him to be a really elite running back. But he's got the talent. He's got the work ethic, I think, to be one of the best backs in the league. And like I said, he's got Tomlin's trust. He's going to be a bell cow. They don't use a second running back like you see a lot of teams do. He's going to be the guy. So I think that alone propels him into the top 10.
Fair enough. I definitely think the volume's going to be there. But yeah, I think I'm pessimistic about that offense in general. But I think top 10 talent, top 10 talent, bottom 10 situation or offense.
Agreed.
Leaves them in that very borderline 10 region.
Yeah,
but
that's why I had Jacobs over Harris, just because of the team situation, what I've seen out of them, and like you were saying, he was given the ball, like he was the offense for a while, like they were just giving him the ball. So I think
this was one of like the triggers. I knew Najee Harris would be a trigger for arguments this episode. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor and the disrespect Dakota showed him last year would be another one. But since we had him 11,
flat out disrespect.
Yeah, since we had him a honorable mention 10 and 9, I got to say it was pretty mild for the Najee Harris, banter that I expected.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Dakota. Tell us who's number 9.
So I didn't hear this guy in your honorable mentions. So I'm going to either guess that you forgot about him or he's in your top 10. But he's somebody I've slept on a lot. I think he's pretty disrespected still in the league. I don't think he has any Pro Bowls yet. But the guy puts out numbers and he's a workhorse, and he's proven to be, especially for fantasy football, a demon. And this past season, he had over 1,500 yards from scrimmage, 20 touchdowns. Austin Eckler from the LA Chargers.
Okay. I do have on my list shortly, so not to keep you on the edge of your seat. I definitely did not forget about it.
Well, you guys like froze for a second. I was like, are they stunned? Are they what's going on? But no, yeah, I think Eckler, especially like I always like, oh, he's just one of those like Darren Sproles type running backs. Like he'll never really start. He'll never be like a three down back. But he's proven it. I mean, his numbers are good. Like I said, he had 20 touchdowns this year. So he's trustworthy with the ball all around. Like he'll go out for block. He'll do anything you ask him. So I think he's a very deserving top 10 pick.
enough. I have no argument there. I will get to him shortly, so I'll let that one go.
Okay.
I think we got enough, heat for you for Josh Jacobs, so we'll let it slide.
Mhm.
So my number 9, I got to say, he's such a weird player. I've never seen a player with like the statistics and the recognition and just the proven success that he has had be so ridiculed and like arguably like his prime. He's not really that old, but I think people ridicule him so much. That's kind of the driving narrative, that they don't look at the actual stats. You look at him like, damn, that actually is pretty solid. But from his standards, it was definitely a down year. So I went with the guy, and trust me, I don't want to make arguments for him because he's definitely not one I'm rooting for. But I went with Ezekiel Elliott at number 9. Look at the ridicule he gets, but he still managed to put up 1,000 yards. The guy put up 1,000 yards this year, 10 rushing touchdowns, 1,000 yards rushing and 10 rushing touchdowns. I play any other name, that's a top 10 talent, easy. We talked about the offensive line. I mean, he had a great offensive line for most of his career when he was winning 2 rushing titles, but Frederick retired.
Yep.
Tyron Smith missed time. Lael Collins missed time. That offensive line was not what we normally see from the Cowboys. And I know that, the hoopla behind, Tony Pollard's all this, he's that. But you know what? Yeah, I know it's 5 yards per carry. He had nearly half the amount of carries that Ezekiel Elliott had. The guy's still pretty good. He tore his PCL during the season. I don't know what exactly that is, but I know if it's a CL, I know it's a problem.
If it's a CL.
So that's all I can tell you.
Dr.
Anything to do
Timo.
with a CL. Yeah, Dr. Timo knows that a CL needs issues. So the guy was playing through problems. So running back without one of his CLs is a big issue. I think Pollard's here to stay. I think it's going to be more committee going forward. And I think the offensive line has still got their concerns. Tyron Smith is hurt again. Lael Collins is gone. But I think if you're talking about talent, like talking about 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown guy last year, but everyone is just crushing him like he's a horrible running back. Put him on any other name. 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's in the top 10 this episode. No ands from anyone.
I don't exactly agree with that. I don't know that.
We'll see.
I could roast you 1,000 ways to Sunday.
He was my number 8 last year, but Saquon was 7. So like I had both them miss the list.
I think the narrative has gotten worse than he actually is. I don't think he's as bad as the narrative makes him out to be. I
will agree with that statement, but he is no longer a top 10 running back, in my opinion. Yeah, you can see it from the eye test. He's more of just a between the tackles kind of bruiser.
Yeah, he's not the
ahead.
old Zeke anymore. He's got his openings, was able to, make a lane, but
exactly.
I didn't see the same Zeke last year.
No,
I think he didn't with the injuries. He didn't have an elite offensive line last year, and he had an injury in his knee that he was playing through. I think that's what you saw. I think you saw Zeke with a knee injury and a bad offensive line, and that's naturally what's going to happen. The guy still, it was a 4. You can talk about yards per carry. There was 4.2 he had, on the way to 1,000 yards. Not the worst thing I've ever seen. Not his best year. I think we got spoiled by him winning rushing titles his first, 2 of his first 3 years in the league. But it also helps when people are all like Tony Pollard, but it helps being the second running back. People are game planning for Ezekiel Elliott. To be the second running back is a lot easier.
I hear you, and that is true. But you go by the eye test, and just you look at the history of the league. Running backs don't get healthier; they don't get better as they age. His best years are behind him. Yeah, he tore a PCL. Oh, that's part of the reason he was bad last year. You think he's going to get healthier? You think he's going to stay healthy for 16 games this season? I don't think so, bro. I think at some point they're going to give the reins to Tony Pollard. He's just going to be the short yardage kind of guy and the goal line guy. That's what I think is going to happen. If they want their offense to succeed, that's what they will do.
I mean, listen, even on a torn PCL, he played every single game last year. He was 15 the year before, 16 the year before that. He doesn't miss time. I think actually the emergence of Tony Pollard is going to help him. I'm not going to sleep on him. I think he's still pretty solid. I don't know if he's the dominant 300 carries a year kind of guy, but I think Pollard could bring him back to, relevance. So tell me your number. So what was that? My number 9. So give me number 8.
All right. So my number 8, I hate this guy and I do not want him to succeed, but I can't deny the situation he's in. Joe Mixon.
Okay.
So I bring up yards per carry. I'm going to bring it up religiously. By the way, Dakota didn't have Jonathan Taylor in his top 10 last year.
Love that. That's number 2. That's 2 on the board.
Like the third time. What do you mean?
So he had 4.1 yards per carry last year, which is serviceable. It's nothing special. I don't think he's that crazy of a talent. But you look at the situation he's in this year. Jamar Chase, I mean, he became a stud his rookie year out of nowhere. I mean, he looks like he's going to be one of the best wide receivers in the league this year. You got him, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. That might be the best wide receiver combo in the league. Joe Burrow looks like a stud. I think he's going to have so many opportunities to get in the end zone this year. That's the only reason I'm putting him there. I don't like the guy. I don't think he's that talented, but I think he's poised for a big year. And the fact that he is the bell cow, there is no number 2, really. Nobody else gets those touches besides Joe Mixon. So that's really why he's my number 9. The situation he's in and the fact that he's a bell cow, he's not going to be sharing carries with anybody else. What do you count number 9?
Number 8.
I'm surprised. Like, I mean, you made it very clear that you hate him, and obviously,
I don't like him.
You hate him. You rated him with pure hate because he is not number 8. He is much better than number 8. Yeah. Listen, no, I'm not gonna rip you or anything because to be honest, you started with I hate this guy and you made it very clear. But you clearly rated him with hate. Yeah, no, you clearly
that had nothing to do with my decision at all.
Okay. So my number 8 is a guy that I think falls into that category of like people look at his numbers and they're like, oh, he's like an average running back. He's not great, this and that. And Timo, you actually pointed this out already because you had him as a honorable mention. But I have a number 8, Mr. Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers. I think one thing people aren't considering is, well, yes, AJ Dillon is kind of looming there in the backfield, but they lost Devontae Adams. Who the hell is Aaron Rodgers? This offense is going to go through who? Like, Aaron Rodgers is going to be chucking that ball, hoping, praying somebody catches it. I think they're going to transition to a little more running. I think Dillon will be featured, but I still think this is Aaron Jones' team as the running back, as the lead back. Only 2 years ago, he had almost 20 touchdowns, over 1,500 combined yards. And Mr. Yards per carry, he had 4.7 last year, 5.5 the year before, 4.6, 5.5, 5.5. Like, he's a good running back. Like, he'll get the job done. I don't have any concerns with him. I think people kind of, because he's on the Packers and because it's Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams all the time, like low key, they had 3 top 10 players at each position of running back, quarterback, receiver. And now that they lost Adams, I think Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon are going to be a lot more featured in that offense. And I think he'll still continue to be a really good running back and hopefully get back to more touchdowns because that's what we need him for fantasy. But yeah, he's a good bet. I don't know what you think in honorable mention.
Fantasy team over here. I think the same argument I made about Ezekiel Elliott you're making for Aaron Jones, but I'd be more worried about AJ Dillon with Aaron Jones than I am Tony Pollard against Ezekiel Elliott. I think they're very similar players. They were very good players, top 10 running backs, still in good systems, still have their concerns, had down year, but I'm more confident in Elliott figuring it out than I am Aaron Jones. I think Dillon's better than Pollard. I'd be more concerned about the other one.
Remember last year, Aaron Jones got paid to stay in Green Bay. So they're going to use him.
So did Ezekiel Elliott.
I think
that was a mistake by Green Bay.
We'll see.
I mean, listen, you could say both their extensions were a mistake, but they both got paid. You make the same argument for both. I think they're very similar players. They're on contenders. They're on teams that have a second running back that might cut in, and they're not the same player they used to be. But the more confidence for me lies with Zeke.
Your point about them losing Devontae Adams and them having to transition to more of a running team is true, but they're also going to have less scoring opportunities, I think, because of that. I don't know. I think Timo's a spot on. AJ Dillon, I think, is going to overtake Aaron Jones probably this year. So I don't know.
Yeah. They're a change of pace. Like Dillon's more of the Dillon's got quads too. Like he's more of the pound it through the middle, and then you have Aaron Jones is more like I'll do a sweep or I'll catch it outside or I'll run off a counter off tackle or whatever. So I think they complement each other really well. Whereas I feel like Zeke and Pollard are fairly similar running backs who they just rotate in. Where I think Jones and Dillon are different builds. But
we'll see. I think they mirror each other a lot. Yeah, I heard your argument. Not impressed. So I'll roll into my number 8, a guy that's already been mentioned. So I can't say I'm breaking. Nice. Found Mr. 15 yards from scrimmage. I'm not going to lie, did not see him becoming a number 1 running back, got to be honest with you. I got Mr. Austin Eckler, who did put up 911 yards rushing, 4.4 average, 12 touchdowns, which is real. But I think when you talk about at the position, he's elite when it comes to receiving running backs.
Yeah.
I think, top 10 running back, he's my number 8, but probably when you talk about receiving running backs, top 3. And considering this guy is still, nearly 1,000 yards rusher, he's got everything you need. He's in a great offense. He's in a great system too. He's in a pass-first offense where he can put his skills out there and really take advantage of Herbert and everyone around him. I think he's really poised for a big year. I think the guy got the reins this past year when they let Gordon go and just flourished. Yeah. So good to see, but I think he's a guy that could definitely climb these rankings a little bit higher next year. Lucky number 7.
Yeah.
So, it's a shame I don't have this guy higher, and I'm going to say the same kind of argument about number 6. But I got Dalvin Cook at number 7. Unfortunately, the guy, he has some injury concerns that I'm worried about. And I don't know. I'm not too much of a fan of Kirk Cousins, even though Justin Jefferson opens up that offense a lot. Kirk Cousins is just an average quarterback.
Don't forget Jalen Reagor too now.
Yeah. Oh,
you're right. Hold on, that changes my whole argument. He's an awesome runner. You guys could have had Justin Jefferson. It's kind of ridiculous that you guys took Jalen Reagor.
I don't see why this is necessary in the top 10 running backs episode.
It is.
Go on, Jonathan Taylor.
I don't have too much to say about him. I want him to be higher. I just don't trust his durability, unfortunately, for Dalvin Cook. I think he has the ability to take over a game. He's one of those running backs that you can kind of you give him the ball, you dominate the clock. But again, his injury, that's the biggest concern for me is his injury history. I think he can have a good season. I think he'll have a great season if he stays healthy. I'm just not confident he's going to play the full year. And I think that's pretty much what's going to happen.
Interesting. I'm very curious to see how your top 5 works out because you have 2 guys in Mixon and Cook that I'm surprised to see right now. I feel like I'm going to have to be yelling at you later when I see your top 5, but we'll save that. Right.
That's why we're here.
We'll save that. Go ahead, Dakota. Give me your number 7.
Well, this is a guy that Fluri seems to hate because he's on a rival team of his. And Tim, you actually just mentioned his name. He was in the Super Bowl. Mr. Joe Mixon.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, nice. Hold on. You gave me a bunch of shit for putting him at number 8. You got him at number 7, and then all of a sudden, all right. Well, that's way better.
You got to use it. This is what Dakota does. He'll just roast you the next day, and then have the guy rank the same spot as you do.
I see how it goes.
Yeah,
that's how the cookie crumbles.
That's all right.
He's letting me get trampled. No. When I have someone ranked at number 7. Oh, it's ridiculous. Whatever. When Dakota has him at 7, oh, okay, reasonable. Yeah, reasonable. Yeah. It's like bringing your child to work day. Like only I can get trouble at work, but when I bring my kid, they're like, oh, whatever. Yeah, that's cute. Yeah, you nearly burned down the place. Yeah, that's all right, kid. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. When I burn down the place, it's like, all right, this guy needs to be fired. It's kind of how it works here. Dakota gets by with it. Me, on the other hand.
I'm sorry.
The guy had Jonathan Taylor outside of the top 10 last year.
He did. I almost
forgot. Are we done with that yet?
He did.
Are we done with that?
No.
All right. Well, Mr. Joe Mixon, he 4.1 yards per carry. It was okay, as we've been discussing, but he was a workhorse, like a lot how Najee Harris was, where they were just feeding him the ball. But then Joe Burrow would open it up, and just Jamar Chase obviously had a phenomenal year too. So that offense was lights out, and I think they're going to be lights out again. Joe Mixon had 1,200 rushing yards, 13 rushing touchdowns. 13. 13. That's more than 12.
A little bit less than Damon Harris, but it's all right.
16 total touchdowns. Very good numbers. He's not the biggest receiving back, but he still had over 300 yards receiving. I think what you were saying earlier, that you don't think he's very talented, well, you must be smoking crack out there in Colorado, or doing it
They do have good stuff out here.
as they
They
said
got
out
good stuff
in
out here.
Ireland.
Good crap.
Because I've watched him play, and he reminds me a lot of like early Le'Veon Bell. He's very smooth with his motions.
Okay, hang on.
No, you gotta like. He's very good. He's very good. So I have number 7, but I like Joe Mixon a lot.
Fair enough. I mean, I know Fluri's soul just wrenched hearing that, 'cause how much he hates him. But wait until you see where I have him, Fluri. But I'll roll to my number 7. Couple things I want to say, because I actually think this is, from seeing your list, I think you both have him in your top 5. Top 5 talent. I won't say that, but man, this year there's a lot of concern for this year, and I want to tell you why. Ready? This was the first season he's gone over 200 plus carries. His yards per carry, 3. This is his season under 80 receptions. It's so low, 47. Went over 80 receptions every single year he's been in the NFL. This year, 47. By far the lowest receiving yards he's ever put up, to go along with his work yards per carry. And nothing impressive in terms of rushing yards, with the most rushing carries he's ever had. A little bit of injury concern popped up this year. So there's a lot of things going against him. Elite talent, but a lot of things going against him in an offense that's going in the wrong way. So at number 7, I've got Alvin Kamara popping up on my list. Listen, look at the numbers. Mr. Yards per carry. His yards per carry is worse than Najee Harris. And on the most rushes he's ever had in his career in a season. And you look at the diminished receiving yards, which has made him such an incredible player. If you look off last year, ignore the name, look off his last year, he's 7. And he's an elite talent, but that's why he keeps him at 7. But you look at last year, man, it's concerning. You look at those numbers, you say them out loud, and you're like, that is something to behold.
I can't disagree with you. I'm going to have him later in my list, so I'll have more to say then. But
fair enough.
I see what you're saying. The only thing I'll add is it was his first year without Drew Brees, which I think was a big impact.
I'm sorry, is Drew Brees coming back next year? Because last I checked, he wasn't.
No, but he's had more time to adjust without Drew Brees.
Oh, okay. More time.
Just wait, Simon. Just wait.
New coach.
More time to adjust. Yeah, new coach, the new quarterback too. The guy he had that last year wasn't playing this year. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll let the Crickets finish this one out. So go ahead, Flurry, number 6.
I'm gonna let the Crickets take that one, but number 6, again, I'm gonna have to say it. I wish he wasn't this low on my list, and I think it's a guy that we all think is one of the most talented running backs in the league. I think you guys know where I'm going here.
Ooh.
It's a shame, but Christian McCaffrey is my number 6.
Close.
I love him, and especially as a fellow white guy, to see a white running back, to me, he gets bumped up at least 12 spots just because he's white.
Anything
he's white.
possible. Yeah, no. Anything's possible. I get. You know what? To skip Dakota completely, and I'll let you continue, Flurry. I also have Christian McCaffrey at number 6. So I'm on the same wavelength as you. So go ahead and
should I swap mine to make it all the same? No, fuck you guys.
No. We want nothing to do with you. You had Jonathan Taylor outside the top 10 last year.
I didn't hear Jonathan Taylor in his top 10 last year. Did you, Timo?
No,
neither
did I. No, neither did I.
Okay. I was just
so
making
go ahead.
sure.
Tell me about Mr. Broken ankles, Mr. 1K.
So speaking of 1K, I mean, he one of the best running back seasons. Do it all running back. He defined it, and he was so talented. I mean, I hate that he's this point, and it's not like you tear an ACL. You can have an Adrian Peterson type comeback. He has these minor little nagging injuries, a shoulder, an ankle, a knee. I mean, it just adds and adds and adds. It doesn't get better with age. As a running back gets old, their peak, a running back's prime is like 25. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's just what it is. I don't think we'll ever see him get back to his 2019 form when he had a 1K season. I think if he can stay on the field, they're going to have to limit his touches for him to make it the whole year. I think he'll have a good season. I will not draft him for fantasy purposes because I cannot trust him. So, unfortunately, the only reason he's on this list is because of the talent, because he's still kind of young. I think he's like 26. He's not that old, but the injuries, you can't go backwards in time. I don't think he's going to ever be the guy we saw in 2019.
No, I like I said, I have him at number 6. Couldn't agree with it. The main thing, I think you hit it on the head, was they aren't torn ACLs, they aren't broken bones. It's these little nagging injuries, and it's not one, it's like multiple. That makes me
Right.
worried. If it was, if you told me he blew out his knee and then broke his ankle, I feel more confident. But it's these
Right.
nagging ones he can't get away from. His career arc kind of reminds me of another superstar in the NFC South who I also brutalized in these rankings, who was also number one unanimous a couple of years ago. But it's Michael Thomas, man. They had massive
Mm.
seasons, and then the next 2 years have been hurt, signed a huge contract, and not been able to find it since. I listen. He's in a make or break year. He's either going to show up this year or he's going to get hurt again. If he's on the field, he's going to be good. I think we've seen
Right.
that enough times. He doesn't stink when he's out there. When he's out there, he's good. But if he has another injury season, it's just going to be this guy can't stay healthy. That'll be the career. It'll be an incredible player. He can't stay healthy. But yeah, no, I
Agreed.
agree pretty much everything you said. I think the talent's there, elite wise, elite receiving back, which we've touched on with the last couple. It does it all. And amazingly, remember the days when the Panthers were 3-0? I remember before I moved over to England, you were over the house when we watched the Eagles play the Panthers, and you got to experience what it's like to be a Philadelphia Eagles fan. As I screamed at the TV for nearly 2.5
I
hours.
still have a video. That video should have went viral. If any video I've ever seen should have went viral, it was that one.
Listen, when you nearly lose a game to Sam Darnold and a Christian McCaffrey-less Panthers, this is what you have to do. But yeah, I think you saw the team. The Panthers were like 3-0 with him, and then he got hurt, and the whole thing fell apart. So I couldn't agree with you more, Flurry. So Dakota, wrap us up. What do you got at number 6?
So my number 6, I want to check my last year because I think I'm going to be a little off. Yeah. So last year I had him at number 2. This year I have him at number 6. And I could coin flip my 6 and my 5 here, because they both have very serious injury concerns. This guy in particular, first year played 4 games, then 10, then 14, 13 last year. The numbers are there, the talent is there, but he just has not played a full season ever. So Dalvin Cook, number 6. It's tough to really rank him because I think he can be that 1, 2, 3 like top running backs in the league.
Right.
But he just cannot stay on the field. So I mean the numbers were good last year. He had over 1,000 rushing yards, 4.6 or 4.7 yards per attempt. Was as good as his previous 2 years before that, but I mean he's still like I said, he just if he could play a full 16, 17 game season, I could see him being 1, 2, or 3. But
Agreed.
But I just it's really hard to put him in this list because of all those concerns. Talent's there.
I totally agree, man. He's like I said, he's got the talent to take over a game. He's one of those running backs that he's an awesome pure runner.
We've seen games where he's had like 200 rushing yards casually, like by halftime, whatever. Like
right, exactly.
So
yeah, fair enough. Well, all right, let's get into the top 5. Sorry, lead us into the good stuff.
So I think this is a guy that we had switched, comparing me to you guys. Joe Mixon gets a lot of hate from me. For one, he's a Bengal, so I hate him.
Fair enough.
To start with, but he's a Bengal. But I have number 5, Austin Eckler, and
wow,
he's kind of, to me, I think Alvin Kamara is a more talented version of him, but he's very similar in his ability to both be a good runner and also he's an amazing receiving back. I think, Timo, you mentioned this just a couple of minutes ago. I never expected like a Danny Woodhead or like somebody like a compliment, somebody that's, really good, but he'll never be like a RB1 type of running back. I think he's awesome. 20 TDs, as you brought up earlier, Dakota. When he's healthy, he's a stud. He not that he is a total injury concern like CMC is, but I think he's got injury concern. I don't think you can give him 300 carries in a season, which is what holds him back. But he's, as far as a do-it-all running back, he's as talented as they come. Justin Herbert, to me, is going to be the best quarterback in the league in the next coming years. And I think you're going to see he's going to get better and better. He's on one of the most high-powered offenses in the NFL. I think that, for me, his ability as a receiver puts him in the top 5 for me. I think he's going to have a great season. If he plays all 17 games, easily see him with top 5 numbers.
Enough. No, I listen. That's what I kind of said mine. I think that he's definitely the guy on my list that I'm circling could definitely rise. He's the one. If I had to put my money on one guy rising this list from next year, it's him. I think just the guys I have in front of them, I know are elite talents. I've seen it, and I still think they're going to be able to produce again at their level. Dakota, what do you got at number 5? I'm sure you have something ridiculous to say, so let's hear it.
Not ridiculous, and I won't spend too much time on him because you guys both recently covered him. But like I said, him and my number 6 guy are very similar in the injury concerns. So I have Christian McCaffrey here, number 5. Talent is, I mean, we all saw that insane year he had 2 years ago. But when you play, 7 games last year, 3 games the year before, that's concerning. I'm hoping he'll be good to go and healthy, and but there's always that, like, especially running backs are the most susceptible to re-injuring injuries over and over and over again. Like as an Eagles fan watching Miles Sanders, he would like nurse an ankle injury for 2 weeks, come back and then hurt it again. So running backs, when they get hurt, it's like if they don't sit out the whole year, which they never do because they want to play, they want to help the team. They're never fully healthy, but fingers crossed for Christian, first name basis. But I hope he's good to go because he's a generational talent, I think, at running back. So
fair enough. Well, I'm going to go back and stir the pot a little here because you guys already showed your hands and made your attentions feel. But I'm actually surprised that you both went the other way with him than I did. But so I'm going to bring up a guy that had 1,200 yards rushing last year, 13 touchdowns. Let's just not ignore that part. He was healthy, durable, played every game all the way up until the Super Bowl, which, as Dakota knows, means you had a good season regardless of what you do. Oh, no, I apologize. It's winning the Super Bowl that makes you have a good season. Yeah. But you know what? You guys hit on a couple things here. I think when you talk about Fluri, I know you have just venom in your heart for him, so I won't hold anything against you. But Dakota, as you usually do with some ridiculous takes, this guy is an elite talent. Let's go back to the offensive line problem. We'll look at his numbers from 2018, 2019, when the Bengals had a laughable, disgusting offensive line. He put up over 1,100 yards rushing each season. It was so, look at this offensive line. They had Joe Burrow sacrificed. They were so bad to draft him because they sucked. And then when he was there, they just had him ruined because they couldn't block anyone. And Joe Mixon still kind of thrived and kept doing his thing. He had a nice yards per attempt. 4.1 isn't anything to, throw fireworks up in the air, but it's better than, Najee Harris. I think you talk about a guy that's also a dual threat, and we want to talk about optimism. And he's in a great system. The offensive line got better. They still have arguably a top 5 passing game. The guy is a runner and a receiver. I think you've seen the elite talent behind a dismal offensive line, and now he's starting to enter an incredible situation that you're really going to see Joe Mixon take off. The talent is there. I mean, when you don't have hateful, Steelers love in your heart, you can see that he's very talented. And I think he's going to be a surefire top 5 running back this year.
Look. I agree with what you say. For one, he's a Bengals. So fuck him.
I can't listen. I can't fault you, though. I can't fault you. Going with your heart.
Thank you, Timo. At least you get where I'm coming from, right? You can at least see where I'm coming from. So I have 3 points I got to make about Joe Mixon. For one, he's a Bengal. He's a fucking Bengal. He's a fucking Bengal. For number 2,
at least a Vandal.
Dakota didn't have Jonathan Taylor in his top 10 last year. That's my second point. That is a very
good point. That's about the smartest thing you said so far.
It's got to be brought up. It's just got to be brought up.
Starting to reconsider my argument now.
For number 3, he beat his girlfriend like his senior year of college or whatever, which is why he dropped from the draft. That's another reason I hate.
All right, listen, fair enough.
You're just a douchebag. You're just an absolute douchebag when you do that. Okay, look, it has to be said. That's part of the reason he's so low, but I will agree, Timo, he's in a great spot.
So low. You
holding that ammunition.
Listen, you have more anger to him about being a Bengal than you do about him assaulting women. Let's be honest. What it really hates in your heart here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, I'm not to put him in my top 10 list of moral characters here, but top 10 running backs. That's where I'm at.
I'm all aboard. I don't mind this at all. I love Joe Mixon. I just put him at 7 because I felt my 6 above were just more talented right now. But I already told you, I think he is already. He reminded me of prime time Le'Veon Bell. Like that's a very crazy.
That comparison's got to stop. That's just got to stop.
It's ruining.
He's nowhere near
the soul.
Look, he's nowhere near the receiver L. Bell was in his prime. Let's just be real.
As a running back, watch Joe Mixon as a running back. He's very Le'Veon Bell. When I loved Le'Veon Bell on the Steelers because he was smooth. He had great cuts. Everything. It was like he was dancing. Joe Mixon is the same way. Yeah. Very, very smooth runner.
Okay, kind of.
Okay, no. I think the fact that he's flourished in a terrible offense, like you can't get worse than what the Bengals were those years. He's only going to be better, and that was 1,100-yard seasons he was putting up. Behind the worst?
How many highlights did you see of Joe Mixon where like the defense was already in the backfield before he even got the ball? Like, and he just made plays.
Yeah. So I think, listen, he's only going to go up from here. You can't get worse than those teams he was playing for beforehand, but. All right, Fluri, your moment to shine. What's your number 4?
Number 4, you kind of touched on why he's this low, but I got Alvin Kamara. Unfortunately, he had a terrible season last year. He really did.
Look, I figured this.
Look at that.
Look, we all make mistakes in life, right? Like not putting Jonathan Taylor in my top 10 last year.
That is true.
There I am agreeing with you, and you're shitting on me already.
But that aside, we also make good points in life, which you're making by agreeing with me here. He's a super talented do-it-all back. He's a more talented version of Austin Eckler, a more durable version too. His efficiency without Drew Brees took a huge hit. I don't think he'll ever be as good as he was with Brees, but I still think he's a top 5 back. He's an awesome runner. He's got incredible vision. And you talk about L. Bell comparison. He's the best L. Bell comparison I think you can make in terms of his receiving ability, his ability to make the cuts, you talk about silky smooth. His biggest highlight, I know this is 2 years ago now, but that Christmas game when he had what was it? You know what I'm talking about? Like
7 touchdowns or something?
6 touchdowns. It's something crazy. He's awesome to watch. And it's not a good team. It's not a good situation. But I think he's still a top 5 talent. Like I said, I think he's Le'Veon Bell without as much of a douchebag factor. And I think he's like kind of what L. Bell would be if he didn't leave the Steelers. Unfortunately for L. Bell, he fell off the rails at like 27.
I know what you guys do to those Steelers offensive players out there.
Yeah, it's crazy pills in that water.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think it was just limited to Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, but it was not a good.
Listen, give Juju
dancing on every play.
Give Najee Harris another year. That guy's going to be just like drooling and the aliens coming to get him. He's going to show up to the game with tinfoil
ripping his pads off during halftime and getting the peace sign and bouncing.
The aliens are coming to get me. That's going to be Najee Harris next year. Just wait. The Steelers, offensive player curse is going to hit in.
I pray to God that doesn't happen.
I think I made my argument tomorrow. I'll roll into my 4 because I'm surprised that you both kind of ignored statistics and like just awesomeness and situation, because we pretty much have the last 3 picks all the same. I'm going to go with a guy who's definitely elite, receiving running back, great offense he's in, and he does have injury concerns, but you're talking about injury concerns that were 4 and 5 years ago. So I'm going to go Dalvin Cook, which is fine, but he did play 13 games last year and 14 both of the years before that. But listen, Fluri, what's your hot button word of the night? Yards per attempt. The guy had 4.7 yards per carry last year. He might have missed, a couple games, but he still ended up with 100 yards rushing, throwing, 200 on, receiving. He's a do-it-all guy. The first 2 years he was hurt, but I think the last 3 he's proven he can stay healthy, even if he misses a game or 2 like he has the last 3 years. But you're talking about, dude, yards per carry, 4.75 the year before that, 4.5 the year before that. He's been over 1,100 yards every single year the last 3 seasons. I think his offense is getting better now that Justin Jefferson is a true, bona fide superstar. It's going to take the pressure off him. I'm surprised you guys tied your trailer to Alvin Kamara and put him ahead guys like Mixon and Cook, because I think Kamara is on the downward slide, and I think Cook and Mixon are rising. They're much better situations, and they've proven it. They did a lot better last year than Kamara did.
Dude, I won't disagree with anything you said. Again, my whole thing is I don't think he can play a full season, so that brings him down in my rankings. But I do still think he's an elite talent.
He's proven that he doesn't need to play a full season to put up some stats. When you have a 4.7 yards per carry, you don't need to play all 17 games to break 1,000 yards.
True, but running backs don't get healthier, man. Eventually, these injuries start to add up. But
Hey, man,
I don't disagree with you.
Dalvin Cook's the definition of getting healthier. The first 2 years, he couldn't stay on the field. The last 3, he's been pretty durable. So I think he's still on the upward slide. I think he's only getting
Pretty
better.
durable.
The
He hasn't
offense is
played a
getting
full
better.
season, Timo. He hasn't played a full season.
But you know what? He plays enough to make it number 4 in my rankings. So that's really all that matters for the whole thing. So let's get in the magic number top 3. What do you got?
So this is what separates the wheat from the chaff here. Number 3, I got a guy who hasn't quite had an elite season, but no doubt an elite talent, Nick Chubb for the Browns. I've been harping on yards per carry this whole podcast, and I'm going to continue to bring it up, along with bringing up the fact that Dakota did not have Jonathan Taylor in his top 10 last year. I don't think that can be brought up enough.
Cannot ignore that. To be fair, I was going to say this. The way it looked like, we're probably all going to have the same top 3, unless Dakota doesn't have Jonathan Taylor in his top 10 again.
Could you imagine?
But no.
I pray that he doesn't. I pray that he doesn't so I can absolutely destroy him.
I have seen him scribble a couple times on this podcast thinking that he probably reworked this list.
I think that was him reworking Jonathan Taylor back in there, yeah. We talk about the eye test. You talk about watching Joe Mixon run the football. When you watch Nick Chubb run, I mean, the guy he's Jonathan Taylor without the amount of attempts that Jonathan Taylor gets. He is 5.6 yards per carry in 2020. Last year, 5.5. He runs with ferocity. He's got the size and the speed to be a 2,000 yards in a season type of running back. I think he's elite. The thing that's holding him back is the Browns are the Browns, and he's got another elite running back right behind him, Kareem Hunt. Talks that he wasn't happy during the offseason, that he was asking for a trade. I think once you get midseason form and you get teams that get injuries to running back that need one guy that can put him over the edge, I think some teams will make some offers for Kareem Hunt. I think he might end up leaving the Browns this season. If Nick Chubb gets a full workload, like I said, this guy could go for 2,000 yards in a season. He's that talented, especially with 17 games. Oh, yeah. Number 3, I think, is the perfect fit for him. Any more carries, and he's Jonathan Taylor territory, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree with you. I also have Nick Chubb at number 3. So I will echo everything you said. The only thing I will take criticism with about what you said is you said he didn't have an elite year. This guy went for nearly 1,500 yards rushing his second year in the league. I don't know what else you call that besides elite. I mean, he's incredible. He's never had less than 5 yards per carry in a single season in his entire career. He's very good. I mean, he's top 3. It's almost ridiculous to have him at number 3, but he is number 3 for me. So I'll let it go because you said pretty much everything I said. The guy's awesome. So Dakota, I have a feeling since you haven't spoken yet, makes me think you have someone else at number 3. I thought this would be a clean sweep.
No, it is a clean. I have Nick Chubb.
There we go.
It is a clean sweep.
Okay.
I just wanted to give some suspense.
He was recounting his list. He's like, all right, well, after I added Jonathan Taylor into the list, where was he at? He was number 3 at the beginning.
No, all
right, so we get a clean sweep.
Yeah,
at number 3, and
three-time Pro Bowler, like 3 straight years in a row, almost over 10 touchdowns every year combined. And I get the whole Kareem Hunt thing, but I think they complement each other really well. Like they go in, one's dominating, the other goes in, the other one dominates. I do think this might be Chubb's last year, or excuse me, Hunt's last year on the Browns. You can't keep that beauty together for too long, but yeah, I mean, PFF said, over the last 4 years, he has the best rushing grade at 93.1, 4.1 yards after contact. Like he's a beast. You guys already touched on it, Fluri in particular, but yeah, I think Nick Chubb is. I wouldn't want to try and tackle him like some of the other guys coming up. So
all right, so cracking number 2. Basically, me and Flurry, I'm sure, have the same one too, and then it's whoever isn't Jonathan Taylor on Dakota's list. We have on here. So who's number 2 for you, Flurry?
Well, like you said, I think it's going to be obvious at this point. Unfortunately, let me just say it's Derrick Henry. I don't think we're going to see much more of his dominance coming up, unfortunately. So he's number 2. I was going to make him lower, but out of respect for Derrick Henry, I had to make him number 2. I think the best of Derrick Henry's behind us. So in 2020, I'm going to bring up my stat that I love, 5.4 yards per carry. I mean, this guy's an enormous back. You think he's just between the tackles. He's got breakaway speed. 5.4 yards per carry for a guy that big is pretty ridiculous. You compare that to 2021. He got hurt. I understand that. Before he got hurt, the 5.4 dropped to 4.3 yards per carry, over a yard less per carry. So I brought up some examples, or at least I wrote them down, of running backs that take a big hit after they have a heavy workload. So Larry Johnson is one that people always point to. 416 carries in 2006. He had 1,700 yards, 17 TDs. You know, Derrick Henry-esque. He missed half of the next season in 2007. Was never the same. Arian Foster, who was one of my favorite running backs that I think is very underappreciated in this time. He had 391 carries in 2012, missed half of 2013, was never the same. Anytime you drafted Arian Foster in fantasy after that season, you got like half of a season worth of him. And he was talented when he was on the field, just could not stay on the field. And more recently, we saw the fall from grace that Todd Gurley had. 348 carries in 2018. He went from 5.8 yards per carry in 2018 to 4.2 in 2019. He doesn't have a job this year. I mean, we're not far from him being the best player in the NFL. I think he made number 1 in the NFL top 100 list after his 2018 season. He's not even on a team anymore. You see this happen with running backs. When they get run into the ground, they do not come back. And unfortunately, Derrick Henry had 378 carries in 2020 and ended up getting injured in 2021. I'm not saying he's not going to have a good season. I think his best days are behind him. I think this is going to be his last decent season. And I think his yards per carry is going to start to drop after the season. Dakota, you look like you want to say something.
I'm just confused. Did I hear somebody who had 117.1 yards per game had a bad season? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I thought it's the same thing as Nick Chubb never had an elite season in his career.
Not saying.
I mean, we're sitting on the guy for a 4.3 average. Like, that is a bad thing. That would have been top.
Not saying it
was 1,000 yards in 8 games. What do you mean?
Not saying it wasn't a good season, fellas. I'm saying the trajectory is downwards. You look at the history of the NFL.
17 yards per game. Like, what?
Yeah, we'll just ignore that.
He went from 5.4 yards per carry to 4.3. It's over a yard per carry difference, bro.
4.3 is not bad. 5.4 is just unhuman.
It's serviceable.
Yeah.
It's serviceable. Exactly.
My ass.
Okay, Timo. I'm saying
Dakota,
I think the best days are behind him, is what I'm saying. Let's
let Flurry sober up a little bit before we get to number 1. Dakota. So go
I
ahead.
need to get drunker.
All
right, yeah. My number 2, I got James Conner from the Arizona Cardinals.
There we go. That's what I wanted to say. Respect him.
No, I have atoned for my mistakes. Jonathan Taylor, number 2, jumping all the way up. He didn't even make my honorable mention last year, all the way up. It's a number 2. I was wrong. You know, it's happened a couple times. I was wrong.
There we go. This is a big step. This is a big step. But what do they say? With alcoholics, they have like step 5 or whatever. They have to, accept their mistake.
Yeah. I mean, I saw his rookie year. I saw the 11 touchdowns, 5 years of carry, 11 over 1,000 yards. I was like, that's really good, but I need to see it again. And then what did he do? 1,800 yards, 18 rushing touchdowns, 5.5 yards per attempt, 106 yards per game. Which
Sing it, Dakota.
Less than
there we
Derrick
go.
Henry, but yeah, really, really good. All pro and Pro Bowler. Yeah, I will give him his crown for second place. He is a phenomenal running back, and
Dakota, this makes me happy that you're having your moment. This makes me happy you're having your moment.
Yeah.
Your recognition. This is like I've seen you make this moment many a times. Justin Jefferson, I think Deebo Samuel had a moment where you finally realized that yes, you were wrong. And I tried to tell you numerous times last year, but you finally had your moment and you're like, yes, I was wrong. And you're atoning for your sins.
It brings a tear to my eye, honestly.
This is special. This is a special moment. Dakota. Yeah. Dakota knows my motto is better to be a year early than a year late. And Dakota's usually 3 years late, but he at least is only 1 year late with this one. So I'm proud of you for that, Dakota.
there you go.
I will take the torch from you because I have a similar ranking as you. My number 2. Let's just look at his numbers real fast. So he had nearly 1,200 yards rushing, 11 touchdowns, a 5 yards per carry average. His rookie year, the year you didn't have him as top 10. Yes. I just wanted to repeat that just so we knew what you ignored the first year.
Please.
But then to get him at number 10, get him at number 2 on my rankings, he had 1,800 yards, 18 rushing touchdowns, and just a disgusting 5.5 yards per attempt. Just truly insane year. I mean, he was offensive player of the year, just all around superstar. He nearly put Carson Wentz's bum ass to the playoffs by himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he's second year, and he's easily, putting up the best season of any running back last year. The sky's the limit for this guy this year. Colts have a good offensive line. I think the situation gets better with Matt Ryan now. So I think you could expect maybe not this insane season he had, because that's gonna be hard to duplicate, but something similar. I do want to take the moment, because now I have the stage, and I just want to immediately, I've laid into Dakota a little bit because he deserved it, because he didn't have Jonathan Taylor in his top 10 last year. So that'll be my last mention about that. But Flurry, your idiotic assessment of Derrick Henry last year needs to be addressed, because I made this similar argument when we did our wide receiver rankings. Cooper Kupp had a year that no one is probably going to ever have again, and he was awesome. But my number 1 last year was Davante Adams, and Davante Adams didn't do anything last season to not be number 1 this season. Cooper Kupp did a lot. But again, Derrick Henry did nothing this year to take him off that number 1 spot. He got hurt. That just, I think, proves that he's human after, never missing a game his entire career and being unhuman. But let's go back to the fact that the 117 yards per game average he had through 8 games, if he played all the games, he would have had 1,900 yards rushing. That's more than what Jonathan Taylor ended up with. The guy had a 4.3 yard per carry, which you over here acting like it's terrible because it came back down from his, superhero 5.4. 4.3 is a hell of a carry average there, my man. I think that was top 10 for running backs with like a certain amount of carries. Derrick Henry did nothing to make you think he isn't the best running back in football. All he did was prove he was human, and his bones do break occasionally, and he got hurt. The guy is still the best running back in football. I still think you're going to see exactly what Derrick Henry is this year.
Dakota, is my mic working? I think it might be adding words or translating into a different language so you guys aren't hearing me correctly. I'm not saying he had a terrible season. The drop-off is what I'm referring to in my list of running backs. That
I think you're looking too much into it.
Is my point.
That's like taking.
I'm telling you what.
The drop let me make, from one of the best running backs ever to just a casual,
You got 3 minutes. Make it quick.
Here. Look, you guys, I'm essentially your running backs expert. You bring on when you're tired of hearing Timo's nonsense and you want to hear some actual logic. You bring me on to talk about running backs. I get it. Look, so this is what I'm here for.
Okay.
I think he's going to have a decent season. I'm thinking somewhere in the 1,200 yards range, probably like 10 to 15 touchdowns. I think after this season, you're going to see a significant drop-off in Derrick Henry. I'm just telling you right now. He's going to be 29 next season. I don't think he's going to be the Derrick Henry that we've all grown accustomed to. Based off all the examples I've given you of running backs that fall off after heavy workloads, yeah, his injury, and from what I've read about his injury, there's like almost no chance of re-injury. It seems like he's going to move past it with no worse for the wear. They don't get healthier as they age. I'm just telling you, I think this is going to be, enjoy it. It's going to be Derrick Henry's basically swan song. It's going to be his last good year, and we're going to see a significant decline. He's still my number 2 running back. I didn't put him at number 10. He's still good. I just had to bring up all the negatives because I know we all like to sing his praises. I don't think he's going to be the same after this year. Case complete.
I think a guy who in his last 2.5 seasons puts up 4,500 rushing yards and 45 touchdowns is not declining. So
no, couldn't. It hates to me.
I'm just saying.
I hate to say this, but Dakota, I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. This guy over here, Nick Chubb, never had an elite season besides his 1,500 yards. He had that.
I never said he never had an elite season. I think the only thing holding him back from not being elite is because he's on the Browns and because of Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. All right. Well, here I think we put you in your place about Derrick Henry slander. Tell me about Jonathan Taylor at number 1.
Yeah, you got a minute.
Jonathan Taylor, 1,800 yards, 18 TDs, 5.5 yards per carry. The size and the speed. Not only is he an elite talent, the size is awesome at 5'10", 225. He's got incredible speed. I mean, you're not catching him in the open field. So Jonathan Taylor, number 1. Dakota didn't have him in his top 10 or honorable mentions last year. End of story.
Very true. I think that's something good to end on. I think we can end on Derrick Henry is definitely not falling off. Jonathan Taylor is awesome, and Dakota didn't have
I don't
him in
think
his
we
top
can
10
end on
last year.
that.
That's got to be the 10th time it's been mentioned. But yeah, Dakota did not have Jonathan Taylor in his top 10 last year. But he is there now.
There we go.
All right, you happy?
We're proud of
you
you.
happy?
You're proud of you. We're proud of you.
Timo, they grow up so quick. I mean,
It's
It seems like-
amazing.
It's all that Guinness.
seems like
we
just
had. All
last-
that Guinness started flowing through me. I was like, Jonathan Taylor, yeah.
You know what's nice is we're on our 3rd year now, so it makes me happy that we can start to see all of Dakota's mistakes correcting themselves throughout the couple of years. It's nice.
good to
We've done
see.
it long
It's
enough.
nice.
It makes me feel good. It means like, you know what? We've done this podcast for long enough that Dakota's suddenly realizing he made many mistakes of the other years.
All right. Good list,
But hey,
lads.
it's been a blast, gentlemen.
As always.
Yeah.
my lad.
All right.
All right.
I'll talk to you.
Peace out.